national property and are invaluable first responders like firefighters. Sadly, I don't place much trust in a foreign multinational corporation. I don't think they care how safe we feel here in McPherson County. The new setback proposals are our only safeguard. I ask you to please adopt these proposed setbacks. I speak on behalf of my husband and I and our 6 children. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
John Reimer, 2253 Frontier Road, Galva. With more than 300,000 wind turbines operating worldwide, best practices are well established already. Because of effects diminish with distance, common sense setbacks ensure that wind turbines operate safely, quietly, and unobtrusively for neighbors. In the shadows, computer modeling allows the placement of turbines where they won't result in obtrusive shadows on surrounding residences. In the small number of instances where there is a flicker, setbacks ensure that any shadow flicker is limited to just a handful of days each year, or mere minutes per day. With typical setbacks, wind turbine sound is equivalent to the hum of a refrigerator. Multiple studies have shown that wind farms are harmless to human health. Any potential physical effects are contained well within standard setback distances. A wind turbine has never caused an injury to the general public. That's according to the American Wind Energy Association, and that was a study done in 2016. We've heard about the 600-foot turbines, and that the studies that have been done don't take those into effect. But we also have to think about the early turbines that first started out at 150-foot heights and have gradually grown and higher and higher and higher, and the effects have not been adverse. So I would say that with the setbacks, we should just consider common sense and proceed that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? This gentleman's coming right behind you, sorry, man, you'll be next.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Justin Reynolds. I'm a McPherson resident and a Sling County business owner who leases ground in McPherson County, Reno County, and Sling County. I have actively entertained the option, and the steps have been put into place to move my business to McPherson County. I will not deal with these. I put 300 people in a motel 7-8 times a year. I have events. I lease hunting ground, about 200 acres as of last week. And unfortunately, for me, this is very detrimental to my business. McPherson County has some of the greatest people I've met. I made my decision to move to McPherson County because these people are good people. And I think you've all heard the voices out here that everybody has concerns. Well, so do I, financially, okay? We're talking about setbacks and everything else. Studies have shown that hunting is affected, wildlife habitat's affected. I don't think anyone can argue that. And I am just asking to take the moment to consider what you're doing to the outdoor hunting and sportsmen people and what you're doing to me as a business owner who is going to move to this county if this doesn't happen. Okay? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. I am Tom Bender. I reside at 980 12th Avenue. I just want to thank you for your time this evening, for everybody coming. Such a great turnout for this meeting. It's really fabulous to see everyone here. Hopefully we're all here for the same reason, that we're here as concerned citizens who are searching for facts, and we all are here for the well-being of McPherson County at large. So joining in that education process that's available to all of us is crucial. We also have, so everyone knows, there are our commissioner meetings. There has been a small handful of people who have attended that to gain the facts and to present those things to the zoning board and commission meetings. So I just like to say, first of all, that I'm not opposed to wind farms, but I am opposed to them being placed in densely populated areas like McPherson County. We have a lot of residents that live out in the county on smaller plots of land, as you all know, since you're on the zoning board, who will not be participants in this project, nor will we be gaining a paycheck for having the turbines placed closely to our homes. What I would like is setbacks that are safe, simply because, you know, when it comes down to it, I asked Juan Carlos, he is an EDF representative who's in this meeting tonight, a couple of months ago, why must these turbines, the real uproar is why they're being placed in such a densely populated area. One of his reasons is because it's cheaper for EDF. They don't have to trench to move the power to the power grid. Okay, yes, we have good wind here, we have the rolling hills up north of McPherson, but ultimately it saves them money to put it into a densely populated area. There's a lot of land that could be leased that was not so densely populated, nor causing such a polar opposite and destruction of friendships that have been developed over many years. So I wanted to point out just a couple of discrepancies, since I don't know that many of you were at the commissioners meeting this morning, but EDF was questioned about a number of things, so I just wanted to point out some of those things that would pertain to your decision regarding the towers and setbacks. At the commissioners meeting, we didn't get a lot of straightforward answers to our questions, which didn't set that well with me or most people present, but we did, when we asked about what size of towers they would be proposing by getting their permits, they would not answer us, as we heard Diane say earlier and a couple of other people. However, we were told numerous times that they've been in the pre-planning phase for years. And yet, we are here tonight for you to decide whether proposed setbacks are appropriate, but we don't even know what we are creating setbacks for. Are we doing 250 foot? They say no, maybe 500 feet, 660 feet. And for those of you, hopefully you've seen the documents that a 660-foot tower is twice the size of the Statue of Liberty. If anyone's seen that beautiful structure, it's pretty monstrous. So just as a reference of how big these are, I think that it's crucial as a zoning board that you know what you're actually creating the setbacks for. So that's of a concern. However, 2 months ago we were told, you were told, as board by Juan Carlos, that they are requesting 600-foot setbacks. When asked in front of the commissioners today, he would not, nor would, I think her name is Jenny, who's also here this evening, would they confirm that. So ultimately, a lot of leases have been signed, and no one knows what size of towers we're even looking at receiving in our county. I think that's something that we should be concerned about. Then it makes me a little bit leery to trust some of the other statements when we've heard the zoning board these things said. When asked, EDF could not cite one project, not one project of a 600-foot tower, not one. That's because they have never placed 600-foot towers. They do not have a wind farm of that magnitude. What they are asking us as McPherson County residents is to be their guinea pigs. What I say to that is that how do you as a zoning board make proper regulations when even EDF themselves could not even assist us? Juan was very clear at the zoning board meeting that they would be adhering to proper setbacks, and they really want to make sure that everything is taken into account, and yet there is no research on 600-foot towers. It's a great concern for me. As these, as Diane pointed out, you know, being those guinea pigs is not something that we really, I think, as a county want to sign up to do. I do wish EDF had some information for us and for you guys. I really do. I think as concerned citizens, we've been trying to produce information. As one of the gals this morning said, she has searched and searched and searched and cannot find. You know, this hits every county, and you guys are the commissioners, and every county in the state have to decide what's good for every county, right? Every commission board. So, I think that's a real challenge for you, and I applaud you in your efforts to do that. I really do. I'm thankful that you're here and that you take everyone's concerns, whether it's those with leases or not leases, into consideration for those. Also, as Diane pointed out, EDF has cited in their brochure, which I'm sure that all people who have received leases, though I have requested information from EDF, I have yet to receive anything in the mail, that a 2013 study shows that there will be no decrease in property values. I do think that is a concern as a zoning board. Anytime you welcome a business into our county, that is to be a benefit for the McPherson County residents. So if 2013 research shows no decrease in property values on 150 to 200 foot towers, how can we say that it won't decrease property values at a 600 foot tower? Independent research, as Diane pointed out as well, shows that it can be between 11 and 40%. And I want to be clear, that's not just for the non-participating residents, that's for everyone. Now, many of the farmers are not going anywhere, and I understand that. They're going to farm that land for years. So, but it's something to consider. Jason has proposed a larger setback. I will in just a sec. I'm almost done. A larger setback, and I think we just really want to consider that as a county and as a zoning board. So I appreciate that, and I thank you for your time, for all the standards and just your willingness to look into that. I do. Can I just ask one question? 2 months ago. Okay, but we have a member that actually has a signed lease. I understand that. Okay, thank you.
Does anybody else want to speak? Lady coming here.
Hello, I'm Deborah Johnston. I live at 2198 17th Avenue. We don't have enough acreage to even need a consideration for a wind farm contract, which is fine. Everyone else here has pretty much said one way or the other what I would like to say, but what I'm here to do tonight is to quote Warren Buffett. We all know who Warren Buffett is. Lives in Omaha. Despite being famous for touting the idea that the rich don't pay their fair share of taxes, investor Warren Buffett seems to be perfectly fine with receiving tax breaks for making big investments in big wind. He says, "I will do anything that is basically covered by the law to reduce Berkshire's tax rate." Buffett told an audience in Omaha, Nebraska, for example, on wind energy, we get a tax credit if we build a lot of wind farms. That's the only reason to build them. They don't make sense without the tax credits. So I hope you'll take that into consideration as you're talking to people. As for me, Saturday morning as an example, I was on my patio, sounded like an aviary in my yard. That's where I live, And if I have wind turbine noise, I don't get to hear my birds. Pretty simple, but it's important to me. Thank you.
Thank you. There was another, you, sir.
Randy Hamilton, 1308 I've been researching this stuff since the 80s, early 80s. I looked into buying my own wind generator at that time. Technology was not good enough. Now I think it's wonderful. I don't know anything about the EFA or FAE or whatever you're talking about. I'm leased to Next Era. They have 67 units out by Dodge. They're only 391 feet tall to the top. What they're planning for here, I don't know. I don't know if you guys have not to talk to Next Era or not. They have a lot of good information. They have done studies with county assessors on property tax, on property value going down, and it doesn't happen. They have done all kinds of studies and surveys. You talk about offset, backstep from a highway. What about this piece of shit they built between Canton and Galva that has incredible wind currents around it? There's zero offset from the highway with that. I don't know what happened there. Nobody asked me about it. I don't know if they asked you guys about it. I hate that thing. It blocks my view of the sunset from my house. And it has no offset. The wind currents are a bastard. Drive by there on a windy day like today. One of these days, it's going to be a hell of a wreck there. I hope those guys have a really good insurance policy. People talk about noise. I have my own decibel meter. I have tested wind generators, oil wells, semi-trucks, school buses. I have found nothing that makes less noise than the wind generators. Excuse me. Firemen. The county commissioners are worried about their 911 stuff. I have talked personally to firemen from other counties with wind generators, no problems with their communications. Zero whatsoever. Like I say, I've been working on this since 1980. Like I say, the height thing for Next Era, I have data on that. This other company, I have nothing. Talking about wildlife. Birds fly into the side of my house all the time. Birds are stupid. They fly into the side of grain elevators. They fly into the side of silos. A few of them are going to get hit by the turbine, yes, but not near as many as flying into the side of my house. Kansas, it is claimed, is the third best state for wind resource in the whole country. We're wasting it. The resource is here. It's been here. I've tried to tap into it in the early 80s. Technology wasn't good enough. It needs tapped into. This one guy talked about one blowing up in Canada. That was a very old one, older technology, and out of the, 300,000 that are currently up, a mere handful have had any problems like that whatsoever. Percentage-wise, very low. Oil wells. I hate oil wells. They're noisy. They're stinky. They pollute the ground terribly right around them. If you plug the oil well, that ground wouldn't grow anything for decades and decades. And they're lots noisier than wind generators. I hate oil wells. Talk about other wildlife. The cattle over in Marion County graze right by the wind generators. They don't care. They don't care. I wish Kansas would shoot every deer that lives in this state. I hate it. Last year, one stupid deer cost me $20,000. And they're protected by the state. But I'm not protected from this piece of crap between Canton and Galva. Drive by, cross my fingers, hope I don't get run over. Property rights. Why is it that if I own the property, I can't do what I want to with it? That's my question to you guys. That's thank you all very much.
Thank you.
I really think we need to talk to the next year. Thank you. Anybody wants to see my daddy, give me a holler.
I won't be as 19th Avenue. I just want to remind you that we're here not to decide whether wind energy is good or not. And we're not here to decide whether or not to put a wind project through McPherson. We're here to decide what's best for the citizens of McPherson County, what's best for their health and their safety and their property values. I was reading kind of an article online and I kind of found some really good things in it that I wanted to share with you. And this person said there's a hidden subsidy for industrial wind. And the subsidy is the economic and non-economic hardship borne upon Kansas due over their objection, face the potential of living too close or within the footprint of an industrial wind farm. It costs them significantly, both economically and non-economically. Economically, the wind industry robs Peter to pay Paul. Economically, neighbors to industrial wind projects can lose a significant portion of their property value. And it's common sense, I don't care what the state says, but it's common sense if you have two homes that are similar, you're going to pick the home that's not close to wind turbines. You're not going to pay the same price for one that is in the shadows of a 600-foot wind turbine, or a 500-foot turbine, or 350-foot turbine. I would not live in a house by choice that was near a turbine. A house is worth what somebody is willing to pay for it. Non-economically, the subsidy is individual is voluntarily giving up the ability to build home or other structures on a portion of the land because the turbine is too close to the neighbor's turbine. This goes back to trespass zoning. If we are measuring from a residence and not from the boundary of a property, it can affect the non-lease homeowners because they may not be able to build a property on their land. It may affect their ability to use all their land. I have children that hike all over my property. I know people who run along the road. I work summers at the St. Louis Arch, which is 630 feet tall. I drove there every day, 5 days a week, during summers, and that was my summer job. And I don't even know if you have any idea how tall that is. I can see it from my house, which was like 20 miles away. And I can tell you, if somebody was to stand on top of the arch and throw something off of it, I would not want to be within 1,000 feet of that arch. And that's something to think about, because accidents do happen. They're mechanical machines. Things break. We could have turbines, we could have blades fall off, we could have oil leak and fires. It's just something that we should be concerned about and we should prepare for. And as Jason mentioned, GE has a manual that recommends their workers are not anywhere within 1.5 hub height plus rotor of the turbines. And then the best mechanical operating and maintenance manual also recommends that workers do not stay within a radius of 1,300 feet from the turbine unless absolutely necessary. Is this where we want our children playing? Is this where we want to be walking on the street? Do we want to be driving our car that close to these things? I just ask that you keep in mind what's safe for all the citizens and not whether or not it kills the project. I just ask you to do your job.
Thank you.
I am Heather Burke, live at 1810 Navajo Road. I come to you as a small property owner. I nor my husband or family have been contacted by any of these large wind turbine companies. We own less than 5 acres. We also farm in the county, own a business in the county. But what has been said tonight, I can tell by all y'all's eyes, you're all getting tired. But I want you to consider safety. I know a lot of you I work with in my day-to-day job, that safety needs to become a priority for all of our citizens. I will have to be forced to look at them, deal with the effects of them, because the ground around me is not something I will ever have the ability to purchase. But a 1,000-foot setback is not enough to me. I think it needs to be further back from homes, just for the mere effects of the large turbines. So if you could at least consider that property value important, but I want safety, because I'm not someone who's ever going to get a voice when I own a farm less than 5 acres.
Thank you. Anyone else? Let this lady, she was coming before you stood up, sir. You'll be next.
I'm Catherine Becker. I live at 2228 Navajo Road, Alva. Living in an agriculturally zoned area, I expected to cooperate with agricultural activities. The grain elevator, the piece of shit, just a few miles away from where I live, I didn't complain. It's agricultural. I believe it's 131 feet tall. There's one of them. They closed off a road that gave me access to the highway. I didn't complain. A certain amount of change is inevitable and acceptable. I'm not somebody who's opposed to change. But this isn't agricultural. This is industry on a massive scale. These companies are asking me to live in the middle of a giant power plant, a network of 600 feet, possibly, tall turbines. So, not knowing the height of the turbines and knowing that these turbines keep growing in height, I think it would be appropriate to set regulations that grow with the turbine. I think it would be appropriate to set setbacks that at the very least follow the manufacturer's guidelines and recommendations. Is there any room for questions? Can I ask any questions? Is that allowed?
If you make them quick.
Okay. So I know it's been asked at a previous meeting, but I didn't quite understand, and I'm hoping that you can help me understand how someone who has already signed the lease how that's not a contract.
This is
with the
countywide zoning regs.
Okay.
And so if it was a wind farm, it would be different. He would probably have to step off, anybody that owned land in that wind farm area. But this is countywide, so
So it's zoning land, but isn't it also regulating the industry? And if he has, or more than one person has established a business relationship with that industry,
yeah, it isn't affecting
it has
this case.
nothing to do with them being in a relationship legally with
If
us.
that person has to step off the board, then we all step off, because
Because you all have legal,
we
relationship?
all live in the county, ma'am.
you all have legal relationships with the industry. So the business contract between the landowner and the,
This is not a wind farm case, ma'am. This is
Right,
only
it's-
zoning regs for the whole county.
for the county
When-
and how it's dealing with the industry, right?
Yeah, it's countywide.
But it's not just the land, it's a relationship with, okay. I guess the last point I would make is there is a lot of research out there. Not all of it's provided by the industry. Why would we trust it 100%? Why wouldn't we consider reputable? There are environmentalists who've been doing this for years who have come to the conclusion that this is not good for the environment and it's not good for communities. Why are we letting the fox guard the hen house? Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, you're next.
My name is John Peterson. I live at 1663 Sledge Road. I have property leased to EDF at 19th and Quivira. Property that I hold the homestead papers on. My great-grandfather homesteaded. It has been in my family. I'm the 4th generation. My son will be the 5th generation that farms this piece of property. I'm not going to do anything that's going to screw it up. It's been too dear to us. But I also have some knowledge of the electric industry, serving on the board of directors of the electric co-op for 25 years. I know that a wind farm is not the answer to all of our current electric needs, but it is part of the answer. I also know that everybody in this room who has electricity to their homes that is generated from a coal plant, from a nuclear plant, or from a wind farm. And it bothers me. I've listened to the people standing up here tonight, recognized a lot of them, that the people that have moved from town out to the country have their little farm, and they can speak their piece about what I can do with my farm. As you can tell, I'm a supporter of the wind farm, and I would like to see it. The regulation, the 6,000 foot step back that's being proposed would essentially kill it. McPherson County, I feel like, is a progressive county. They voted down corporate dairies, they voted down hog farms. It doesn't sound very friendly to agriculture to me, and it was brought up earlier about the refinery. Yes, the towers are far enough away they won't fall on there, but if the wrong chemical was spilled out of that refinery, half of McPherson could be gone like that. So the wind farm, like I said, it's not the answer to all of our electric needs, but it is part of the answer.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name's Tanya Markinson. I am the board of Liberty Day. I don't live in the country, but I did grow up in the country. One of my favorite things about living in the state is the landscape, and I know there's nothing I can do to stop this wind farm. But the one thing, and I haven't researched as much as a lot of the people here, but the one thing I have seen in the research I have done is the consistent thing is these wind companies come in and it causes so much turmoil and dissension among our community. And it makes me sad because it doesn't have to be that way. And I guess what I'm asking you to do, I know you can't please everyone, but if you're going to allow it to come in, let's not disregard each other's opinions and at least work together to find a good compromise, because I feel like this is something that's tearing people apart. Friends are fighting friends, and it doesn't have to be that way. If you're going to allow them to come in, don't make them 600 feet. If you don't want to give more than 1,000 foot setback, then lower the towers. I mean, they don't have to be 600 feet tall. I personally think they're going to be an eyesore. I don't want them in this population, that's highly populated area. I love being able to look out along, the landscape of this state. I think we're losing the beauty in that, but at least compromise in the sense that we don't have to put 600 foot monstrous towers in our community. If you don't want to do more than 1,000 feet, lower the towers. If you make them 600 feet, they have to be set back for the sake of everyone around them. Because that's just, I've even sat in this room and seeing people roll their eyes and scoff at other people's opinions. And that's really sad, because since moving to this community, the pride that I see in this community, and it's a great community. You guys have done a fabulous job of making it a place of industry and a place of community pride. And are we willing to screw that up over a wind farm? Obviously, I can't ask you to not put it up, but at least consider not making them so tall and at least have the proper setbacks so that friends can be friends with kids. That's my hope. I just think it's silly that this should tear us apart, because they're going to leave after their wind farms put up. We are going to be here. We're going to remain. So consider that, please.
Thank you.
My name is Rick Anderson. I live at 14 1461 Briarwood Lane here in McPherson. And I would just encourage you to put together as an extensive exit strategy as you can put together. Every piece of power generation equipment has a useful life. That useful life is predicated upon the quality of the operator or the owner. Maybe 25 years, maybe 50 years, maybe 5 years. But what happens when that useful life is up? These turbines are going to have a huge base to them. They're going to have road going to them. And who's going to be responsible for cleaning up the mess once the useful life is expended? If you guys don't do your job and protect the lease owner is going to be responsible for the entire cleanup. But if you put together a very good exit strategy that's going to take care of the cost of that and adequately take care of the cleanup, you have done your job as far as protecting the lease owner. So just be very, very careful when you're putting together the exit strategy. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Last call. Jason, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you. My name is Jason Wright, 2107 19th Avenue. I own the quarter section of land there in Delmore Township. About a year and a half ago, we considered leasing our quarter section to NextEra. We thought seriously about it. We reviewed that contract and decided it didn't make sense for us. In the process of considering that lease, we did some research, wanted to find out what others who had leased their property, what their experience was. And it was really overwhelming what we found in the research we did. The regret that a lot of leaseholders had over having leased their property and the outcomes of those projects. And a lot of the studies that are done by universities and independent scientists that do show some negative effects. We didn't know anything about wind farms until we looked into that NextEra contract. Having reviewed our county's CWEP regulation and the results of the scientific studies we came across, is where I really came to the conclusion that our regulation is lacking for the size turbines we might allow and the amount of setbacks that we state in our regulation. Many people don't want to live around these. You've heard from a lot of them tonight. Supply and demand is pretty simple economic concepts. Our property values are going to go down. My friend Daryl Alexander's here somewhere. Daryl and I are exact opposites on this topic. It's possible to still be friendly with those you have different opinions of. Daryl's disc is sitting on my ground. I borrowed it 6 or 7 years ago. Do you even remember I had it? But I'm not a very good farmer. I cannot find a way to make money on my quarter section. It's not enough land, it's not good enough dirt, and I'm not good enough at it. So I need to give you your disc back and hang that up. But Daryl's never going to sell his ground. And so why would you care? I'm sorry to call you out there. Why would you care what your property value does? But my house is going to be for sale within 3 years. I care about my property value. And you just heard from I don't know how many people that said, I don't want to live in a wind farm. That's the same people that are my potential buyers. Property values will go down. There's lots of studies. They're in the book I supplied to you, done by real estate professionals. This is an economic issue, and it's a big negative economic issue if we leave our regulation as it is.
I believe if we increase the setback somewhat, we reduce the negative economic consequence of property value loss. I believe that will also focus the projects in on less populated areas of the county, which would be more appropriate and cause less economic harm. And that's why I proposed those increased setbacks in the application in front of you. Also attempt in there to address the issues of sound, noise, and shadow flicker in a way that, again, they improve quality of life and really incorporate a lot of the concepts that the folks from EDF talked about with computer modeling of shadows and sound management. They have those abilities to computer model where shadows are going to go throughout the year. We should require that in our regulation so that it's not left up to their good faith that they'll use those tools that are available. So that's a suggestion in that application. I really do believe that these changes will address people's concerns, will minimize negative economic impact, and still allow people who either own enough land that they're not going to negatively impact their neighbors, or who, among like-minded neighbors, have a big enough plot of land that they're not going to impact neighbors who are not interested in participating. It still allows those people to have this equipment placed on their property. And that really ends up a win-win for everybody in the county. McPherson County is a thriving county, and I view that this is a potentially negative economic problem that could harm us if we don't improve our regulation as discussed. For the increased height should drive increased setbacks. You've got my information in front of you along with some supporting thoughts, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, we'll close the public portion of the hearing. Only if the board has questions asked of the applicant will the public be allowed to speak. We're ready to start on the E1A wind turbine shall be located closer to 500 feet of the total height of the turbine plus 50 feet, whichever is greater from public roads is our current language. The proposed is no turbine shall be located closer to 1,000 feet or 1.5 times the turbine height, whichever is greater from public roads. I might remind the board we need a motion to move on this before we can start the discussion. What are you moving?
Move that we discuss the,
I need a motion. No. What are you moving?
moving that we accept the proposed language on E.1.0.
Okay. We have a motion to accept the proposed language. Is there a second? Is there a second? Motion dies due to lack of second. Would someone like to?
I'd make a proposal that we set that at nothing closer than a quarter mile from a public road. And listening to some of the things, like with airplanes, and as you...
We need a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Let's
Okay,
do a motion.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, that makes, that no turbine should be located closer than 1/4 mile from a public road.
And we'll split that in 1300. It's been been moved to change the language to 1,320 feet. Do I hear a second? Second. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion prior to voting?
Would you say our current post, 1,000 feet?
Pardon?
We're 1,000 feet?
No, currently we're 500 or 500 plus the height,
Height of the town.
plus 50, whichever is greater. And the motion is to change that to 1,320 feet.
You know, from the point he made as far as fine, VFR, because I think that's correct initially, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know if that would be an outlandish thing to move it out just a little bit from the road. I mean, if we're all worried about safety, I guess that would provide safety.
Are you talking blacktop roads, or are you talking?
Yeah,
county roads?
let's
Talking
clarify
township?
that.
Well, it says public roads is the way the current language is, and so I would assume that would be
All roads.
all roads.
Yeah, we need to remember, these were written for 200.
My thinking is that if you bring things in, you now have a larger corridor on each section, from this section, than this other section over here, and so you've got a little bit more there, you're getting a tower, if you're getting two towers on that section, and they're gonna be pushed in a little bit, and you're gonna get a little bit more of a symmetry, which, from a safety factor, like with the same with the airplane, if you, here's the road, and now you got a full half mile, and they could possibly be in. And yet you could still fit in, there's room diagonally, that you could get two towers in that section, if they figure if the wind patterns fit with them.
You have a quarter of ground, and then you're pretty well eliminated. You have
Well, unless you want to have put a stipulation in there that thing, if you got a quarter, you could get it, technically you could just about, but you'd have to change the number of feet by it a little bit.
the property lines, you only have a quarter, then you would lose out, you would not be able to have one.
And that's gonna play into the next one with property line. As far as
Road.
it's a non-participating quarter to the north of this quarter.
And I think what people don't realize is this is all in McPherson County. It's not just north of McPherson, it's not just east of McPherson, it's not just west of McPherson, it's all in McPherson County we're talking about. And there are places out there that have full sections, but there are places that don't have full sections.
Any further discussion prior to voting?
So you're changing it to 13.
The motion was to change the footage to 1,300 from public roads. Or 1,320, I'm sorry. Any further discussion? Laurie, are you in a position to get the motion correct down?
Yes.
Okay. You want to do the roll call vote?
Tim Bornhold?
I don't vote.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Larry Frace is not in attendance. Gary Brownfelter?
No.
Gary Huxman?
No.
Leighton Calapak?
Yes.
Richard Larson?
No.
Jim Leach?
No.
Kathy Nicholson?
Yes.
Raymond Williams?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Laurie.
Yes.
nays prevailed, would someone want to make a different motion on a different footage? If there's no other motion presented, we will assume that these regs that we currently have will stand as printed. Hearing no further motion, we'll move to E1-B, which is no turbine shall be located closer than 500 feet of the total height of the turbine plus 50 feet, whichever is greater from the property line of any property not included in the special use. Proposed language is no turbine shall be located in such a way that casts a shadow on a non-participating property not included in the special use. In addition, no turbine shall be located closer than 5,280 feet from property lines of any property not included in the special use. Again, we need a motion and a second before we can discuss any further points.
I move that we adopt the proposed language for E.1.B.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second? Is there a second? Motion dies. Lack of second. Is there another motion from the board? Hearing none, the current language stands. E1C, no turbine shall be located closer than 2,000 feet from a residential structure. The proposed language is no turbine shall be closer than 6,600 feet from a residential structure.
I move that we adopt the proposed language with the footage changed to 1 mile.
Okay, the motion is to change 6,600 to 5,280. Is there a second? Is there a second? Motion dies due to lack of second. Is there another motion?
We change it to 3/4 of a mile. No turbine should be located closer than 3/4 of a mile from a residential structure.
Excuse me, Layton, could you speak up, please? Could you speak up, please?
Okay,
Thank you.
no turbine shall be located closer than 3/4 of a mile from a residential structure.
So that would go to 3960 feet. It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Everybody ready to vote?
Gary Brownfelter,
No.
Gary Huxman,
No.
Leighton Halapak,
Yes?
Richard Larson,
No.
Jim Leach,
No.
Kathy Nicholson,
Yes.
Raymond Williams.
No.
Okay, motion doesn't pass. Would someone else like to make a new motion? No new motion found. The current language will stand. E.11, the applicant shall take reasonable measures in such planting trees, install awnings, etc., to mitigate specific adverse visual impacts such as reflection, shadow flicker, and blade blink affecting residents within or immediate adjacent to the project area. The proposed language is the applicant shall locate turbines with...
Excuse me, Chair. Did you skip one?
Well, I don't know, I could have.
E1G.
Dot G.
E1G.
At the bottom.
Sorry, I apologize, I did skip that one. This does not have current regs, this is a proposed new reg to be added. Distances for minimum setbacks for CWIP shall be measured from turbine's outermost extension, whether blade tip, nozzle, turbine housing, or tower pole edge that is nearest the non-participating property line, road, or residence. Again, we need a motion to discuss this further. No motion heard, that will not be put into our regs. 1H is no turbine shall be located closer than 3 miles from the property boundary of land managed by the Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks and Tourism. This is a new language to be added.
I move that we adopt E.1.H for the recommendation of Department of Wildlife.
Okay?
Ken, we discussed that.
Now we need a second.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I do live in Battle Hill Township, and you know, I know, everybody knows now that I'm leased with EDF, which is fine. Maxwell Game Reserve sits in the middle of Battle Hill Township. Over 6 sections of ground that we get no taxpayer money off of, which is fine. And we've turned around and we've taken on extra roads to try to make them better around the game reserve, and we've done a good job of it. The whole thing is, the people of Battle Hill Township pay for those roads. We have not increased the mill levy, and we don't plan on it. But the whole deal is that if the people of Battle Hill Township are gonna be taken away out of the equation on this deal for 3 miles, then it's not hardly fair to turn around and let them pay for all the roads around Battle Hill Town, around the game reserve.
Okay?
These are the recommendations that are determined by the Department of.
And they are recommendations.
Are
I
they?
talked to the Secretary of Wildlife and Parks this afternoon, and it is just a recommendation. He
It is a
said
recommendation.
we would work with you as long as there was no wildlife that was endangered species that would be in danger.
And it is the recommendation by the Wildlife Department, and I think you spoke to that earlier, so there is no hard, fast rule on any of it, but it is their recommendation.
There is a hard, fast rule that will eliminate Battle Hill Township, any kind of income off of
Okay? Any other discussion?
Wildlife and Parks manage a lot more land than just Maxwell. They have the McPherson Valley West.